this light just down just a little bit? Somebody up there? Thank you. We've been working on these pieces since September. And before I say anything, do you have any questions for us? And then we can...
Initially, what exposition are you at? Isn't it called
Exhibition.
Exhibition, excuse me.
What exhibition am I at?
That's a hard question.
Where do you think I am, Brian?
Well, maybe I'm confused, but an exhibition is a gallery presentation. No, I'm
Could
just,
be.
right? Because when I read the title, I immediately thought you were at a gallery, and I was wondering what show you took.
You know, originally the piece, that's the name of the music. That's the name of the score, Women at an Exhibition. And originally I had a lot of clothes on. I had a tutu and a skirt over the tutu and a jacket, and I took everything off as I danced. And then we felt that it was imposed. And so kind of in my head, I'm the exhibit. It's still a work in progress. So there's a focus thing that I have to play with. Like, are you the exhibit, the audience? Do I play with that? You know, and then do I look at you more and then maybe get more internal, or am I internal and I get more external? You know, we can talk about that. Did anybody else get confused by that title? No?
Are the two pieces meant to be done together? So they're independent pieces?
Well, we had a residency at the Baryshnikov Center for about a month, and we had 2 showings this week where we asked that question to a lot of people. Because originally I actually inserted my solo into the middle of her piece, and then I felt again that it was an imposition. So I took it out. And the feedback that we've gotten this week is that there is definitely a similarity between them, that there's something very connected about them, but they definitely don't have to be together. To me, she's got a solo, I have a solo, and I think there's some interest in putting them side to side, but I don't think they have to be. Did you feel a connection?
I think just coming, you wonder whether, and then seeing your piece first, you wonder if there's commentary on one on the other. And I was just curious if it's intended that they be done together, or can they be considered separate ones?
Well, when you saw them together, did my piece affect the way you saw Lisa's piece?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think you would, because it gives you, not a frame of reference, but it gives you something to place you on, and then obviously there's contrast.
Yeah.
Plus, it certainly sets the stage for appreciating what we do. It's to suddenly see without all the possibilities with every living tack to see what she's able to do. It's just phenomenal.
She's phenomenal. You know, when Lisa came to me, she had no dance training. None. Kind of hard to view her and think that she's not had that kind of training, right? I mean, any questions, comments? Yeah.
Do you feel like you were dancing?
Do I feel like it? I think I was dancing, yeah.
I mean, do you feel like different than when you began the process?
I definitely, I mean, it's been a really intense process. I don't know whether it relates or not. I've never worked this closely with someone before, and we're really, really, really like inside each other's heads, you know, and that has been, has had the most impact over everything. But I mean, aside from that, Heidi's been really, most people don't have that much attention from one person to really get them into shape. So I definitely feel like I'm in much better shape than when I started, yeah.
She's been taking my class too, which is pretty extraordinary.
The Lotsky method, I recommend. Seriously.
It's like she came here and just gave herself over to me, which I've never had either. I've never had that experience. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm
No,
just
no.
so intrigued with the prosthetics. Are these designed specifically for athletes or?
These are running legs. They're also called cheetah sprints because they're like the shape of a cheetah's back legs. They don't have heels. And the physics of them is that they're basically a spring. So they have a lot of energy return. It's something like 200% energy return or something like that. So they're
And-
really fun.
And unfortunately, this floor is so slick that you couldn't see when Lisa really runs with them, like she lopes, I mean, when there's more space and you were holding back a little bit.
I had fallen on the floor right before, so I was kind of like,
Yeah, but they're really incredible when you see when she's full on.
And one thing just about these legs is that I hadn't danced before this, but I've done some performance art, and my work a lot has to do with just prosthetics and technology and stuff like that. So when I contacted Heidi, I was like, I've got all these legs, I've got these running legs, and
Sorry. Just put that down. Okay.
I really envisioned working with more prosthetics. But Heidi really saw in the first week that my best mode of expression was without anything, and that was a big risk for me. That was, I had to get very vulnerable to do that because before this process I never wanted to be too far away from my legs. So that's really changed, and that I feel much more comfortable just being without prosthetics at all and all that. So
It's also interesting during the process that, because Lisa's, she said when she called me, I have stilts, I have this, I have that, and if anyone knows me and my work, I'm really not into that, it's like I was more fascinating, well, who is this person who's calling me up and doesn't know me, doesn't know my work really, and wants me to help her make a solo and is willing to come to New York and really do this. So I was much more interested in who Lisa was and to try to bring her out more. And in doing that, I'm trying to get her to move with momentum, and it was really fascinating when one day she said to me, I've spent so many years trying to hold, not to fall, trying to to grab something and not drop it. And now you're asking me to move with momentum. And I never even thought of that. I never even thought that would be something that I'd have to work on. And it was really challenging, but great. Really, I've learned so much just by having this beautiful body to work with that's so different from mine, and to see her incredible ability and the beauty. I learned the first aria with her, and I would never do it. I don't think it looks good on me. It was really, it's so beautiful on you, and the shapes that you make that I couldn't do. It would look very different. You had a question?
Yeah, I mean, your movements were so smooth and fluid. It just seemed like it wasn't that difficult for you. I'm sure it was, but what was the most difficult for you in that?
Well, the memory of it, since I don't dance, I don't remember series of movements. I have no body memory. That was the hardest part, really. It wasn't learning the physicality was one thing, but, I jogged before and stuff. That was just kind of you just do it. But it was really remembering it that was the hardest part for both of us, is that Heidi would give me, some new stuff to try out, and I couldn't remember it the next day. Just at all, so
But you're better now.
I'm much better now.
Yeah, you're much better now. Like, that was the main difference in the process, is that, you know, with dancers who, especially dancers who've worked with me for years, and I have some of those, you know, I just say, like, I can throw out so much stuff at them, and they'll remember. And with Lisa, I had to really stop myself and realize that, you know, this, she doesn't know my vocabulary, this is all so new, that, you know, I had to limit what information I gave to her. And keep it simple. And that's why I took all the clothes out of my solo. Because, you know, I was littering the stage with my clothes, and I realized what I love about her solo is how simple it is. And I think it really doesn't belong in a black box, because when we did it at the Baryshnikov Center, oh, so beautiful, because it's cement walls and big windows and very industrial looking, very clean. And I really think that's what it needs to be. And in January, we're doing it at Judson Church, which is also beautiful and very gray, right? Very, I think it's going to be beautiful there. So I don't know what, Robert, the set designer who's in the room, to do when we're in a black box, you know, because I think we have to somehow, if we travel with this, we have to define the space.
Well, in some ways, it was
Some way.
really beautiful as well. I mean, I saw it, they're showing it this week, and just I mean, it's so tight. And I was able to see the struggle a little bit more, and, you know, I appreciated that here. The sort of, I saw more of the energy and the intensity and the shaping, you know, and I appreciated that. There's something in there.
Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I mean, it's different.
Yeah, it's very different.
The space is different,
Very
but we're almost on stage with you, which is interesting.
Do you guys have a question? Charlotte, Emily, Sophie, Roxanne, do you have a question? No. Brian?
Just for fear that I won't have the opportunity to get you to know you better, but I'm going to assume that that will happen. But Lisa, which is easier, taking on or off the prosthetics, or is it 6 in 1?
No, definitely, it's easier to come off. It takes more time to put on.
Okay. Am I correct in thinking that you're from Boston?
Yeah.
And did you perform in Mobius, or where did you do work in Boston? Because I lived in Boston and did stuff in Boston.
Oh, really? Where do you live in Boston?
I lived in Allston, Brookline.
Oh, I live in
Brighton.
Austin.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Mobius?
Yeah, I know Mobius. Well, the most recent place I was in Boston was the Pure exhibit.
Oh, not familiar.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just around Boston, Pan 9, and various places.
Because Mass Art has EventWorks. You should probably throw your chip in there, because you definitely do something in there. But I hope we'll talk more.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Charlotte. Which one? Both of them? Since September. So how many months is that? September, October, November. Is that a lot?
No.
It's not a lot. It's actually not a lot.
That's a good question.
It's not a lot. It's, you know, they say you know, you should give yourself a good year to make a dance.
I feel like this is just kind of like the first phase,
Mhm.
and we're gonna take a little break for the holidays, and that'll be good. And see where we're at.
I mean, it's interesting. It's like that learning curve that Lisa's been through. It took us 2 months just to get her memory kicking in, right? And also to push the movement to a place where we could actually then, you know, now when I watch Lisa, I'm already going to the next level of performance quality, which we really haven't had time. We've addressed a little bit, but now that the movement's getting easier and more fluid, and we can we can even hone it more.
Yeah, well, I haven't really seen it yet. So
Oh,
I'm
you
looking
will.
forward to
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
it.
Heidi, do you feel you've been affected by performance art concerns?
What do you mean by that?
Well, Lisa comes from a performance art perspective.
Yeah.
So she's bringing her concerns to you. I wondered if you were affected by those issues. I'm thinking of especially taking off the tutu, and, you know, those are.
Oh, you mean,
Well, yeah.
yeah.
Prop and concept-based actions on stage.
Yes. Well, I know, like, originally I didn't even want to use the running legs. And I was really, really interested in just pursuing, just exploring her body and what it can do. But Lisa really, when she talked about the running legs, it made a lot of sense to me, why we should try to explore it. I still don't think that section's completely there. I'm still not sure what you mean by performance art concern, but there was another piece of music that we were going to use, the very last piece, La Vie en Rose. Somebody at Midtown West told me about Somewhere Over the Rainbow by that, he's a Hawaiian, I don't know his name. And I just got it, and I loved it, and I brought it in, and we actually made that whole last section to that piece of music, and it was she had a very strong reaction to the song. And because of that, I wanted her to work with it. But
And
it
a
never,
strong reaction against it.
against it. She hated it. Yeah, thank you. I don't know if I'm answering your question by doing this. She really hated it, and she brought to my awareness her position as a performer. And it really came to a head. I mean, we were fighting, like, pretty intensely. And then we both went away from this fight, and I was like, okay, I guess I better look for something else. And she was like, okay, I better think about why I hate the song so much. And then we even played with it this week. We actually used it. And there were people from the disability community who commented on it, and people from, you know, the dance community. And it was unanimous that people didn't like that song. Not that they didn't like it, that La Vie en Rose had more of an impact. But it, you know, it made me have to look at Lisa and who she was, and what was, you know, what was going to be seen, where I was, you know, just kind of, in some ways, you know, I felt like I was in a vacuum for a little while. In terms of the tutu and stuff, I mean, really the only reason why I took it out is because it felt imposed. And I have a habit as a choreographer to start with something and then go, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if I layered it with all these things, and it just doesn't work. So like that's why your question, Woman in an Exhibition, is one for me to, because it really, when I made it, that's not, it started to become that with all the clothes, and then really that was not my journey. That was not my journey. And so I've learned through working with Lisa, or I'm trying to go simpler and stick to the essence of what it seems to be.
Music choices is my question. I actually felt that the last choice, for me, distracted me from watching her movements.
La Vie en Rose, yes.
And the other choices too, how did you decide on the music? Did you choreograph first and then found your music? Or for you, what's your process on it?
It's always different. Do you want to know specifically for her solo, or does it?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, for my solo, I had just made a piece. Well, I also know I was working with Lisa, so I started doing all these arm gestures. And I had just made a pretty intense piece that Brian worked on with me that was very concept-based. It was called Disjointed, and it was very sonorial. I wanted to do that. I just really wanted to move and I wanted to explore a different way of, and then and I didn't have music. And a good friend of mine who's I've worked with in the past had this real, and I thought I wanted a film score. I thought that would be kind of interesting, and I thought that piece of music was very filmic. It's actually a 20-minute piece of music, but it's in sections, so I worked with him in cutting it up. With Lisa, for some reason, I kept seeing her with an aria. And I met an opera singer, and I said, I want a beautiful, beautiful aria, but I don't want it to be melodramatic. And I don't want it to be sentimental, but I want it to be exquisitely beautiful. I happen to think that piece of music, what's it called? Ombre Mafune or something. When I heard that, it was just, I don't know, I think it's really beautiful. So, and then we had 2 versions of it that Lisa downloaded for me. So we used them both. Sometimes it's just kind of fluky. And then I had this Mediterranean lullaby CD that I got for Charlotte. And Au Clair de la Lune, I don't know, who knows that song? Because Canadians know it and Americans seem to not. Are you Canadian?
No.
Oh, okay. Because I realize it's a cultural thing. I mean, I grew up with Au Clair de la Lune, and when I heard that music, it's so eerie because of that little kid's voice. And I always wanted to use it, and we kind of had this metaphor going about her sleeping, her kind of going into almost an alternative world or avoidance before she comes to some kind of acceptance. I mean, this was what I started to think of, so I used that. And then we kind of got stuck on this last piece of music, and I don't even know if the Vie en Rose is the right choice still. We just haven't found anything better. You know?
Have you tried to move like her?
Yes. I can't. It's very, very hard. Like, I really can't. I don't have the upper body strength that she has. I can do some of it.
Well, that is a really interesting thing, though. Sometimes she'll say, it's more like this, it's more like this, and I'm saying, well, my center of gravity is different, and so we do a lot of work together where we're both trying to do something, and we're trying to work it out. And most of the stuff that she does, I can't really do or whatever, but a lot of it,
A lot of it is, it's kind of her interpretation. I mean, I really worked with Lisa's body. And then there was a point where I was going to do Au Clair de la Lune with her, just elements of it, and it was like torture. I mean, I don't know how she does it, because it really requires all this upper body strength, and I'm pretty strong, or I thought I was.
When I first started doing that, my neck was really sore for weeks doing that.
But we do a duet, and that we do want to make a duet together.
I was just going to ask quickly about the reaction of the disabled community. I don't know how many showed up, but it must have been incredibly inspirational, and I don't know how many disabled people are dancing about anything compared with TANK. Was it, it must have been a positive response.
It's mixed. There is a whole integrated dance community. It's more on the West Coast, but there is something. It's interesting that you would ask that, because one of the things that I kept on saying to Heidi was just that, as a disabled person and knowing there's this disabled community, I don't want to seem too inspirational. I want to be inspiring without being inspirational, because we all have this chip on our shoulders about, just how the media portrays us. It's like you can kind of hear it. It goes, she was a cheerleader. She had a devastating trauma. She omit. Now she brushed her teeth by herself. Isn't that great? So it's like we have this chip on our shoulders where we're like, it's good to be inspiring when I'm doing something amazing. You know what I mean? So it's a defensive thing that I do. You know what I mean about this? So I'm saying to Heidi, I've got this thing, and I really have to work through that. It's my problem. Where I'm doing some great stuff, so it's okay to be inspirational. But yeah, so.
Hey, Frank, I didn't even see you. Hey. Frank is my musical director, and he helped us with the music. And I was just going to quote you, and then I saw you. Well, when you came to rehearsal and we wanted your feedback, and you said to me that you felt that what Lisa was doing was what any of my dancers, like what I would have made for any of my dancers. And I really felt that way. I felt like it wasn't that different. I mean, except that I was working with, you know, just yet another different body type.
Yeah, and anybody that you would work with them and what they do. And
Yeah.
With Lisa, you didn't choreograph up, down, you just choreographed.
But I do think, I mean, that was a real issue with Somewhere Over the Rainbow, just to get back to the inspirational part. And I kind of hope that the community sees this for what it is, this piece, well, that everybody sees it for what it is. And you know, I do think it's inspiring. I'm inspired because I think it would take a lot of guts for any dancer, let alone someone who's not a trained dancer, to come to New York City, you know, and work with one person. That's a lot of focus on you, which can be wonderful, but also scary.
And a 20-minute solo. We
What?
talked about that before, just having a 20-minute
Solo.
it's rare.
Yeah.
Even the most professional don't even venture there. Because it's very vulnerable and intense and hard.
Well, to sustain that kind of
Sustain the performative quality of it.
for 20 minutes.
It's really, really hard.
Lisa, can I ask you, if you have watched you through this process, how do you feel post the second performance is over? What comes over? What do you feel when the lights go down and you sent your message? Or you expressed yourself?
Most of you just relief, I think. And also, I'm realizing that with dance, it's such a body thing. You know, it's like everything is, and I don't think it much. You know, like I think that before when I was performing, I did a lot of thinking through it all, and this is just all. You know, Heidi's been really like, just feeling it is the best way to get that feeling out. So I think that I feel good in my body, you know. So I think that that's what the piece is about too, is just kind of just being comfortable and just kind of, you know, just being comfortable in your skin.
You said that you got some mixed reactions from like the disabled community. Did you get any sort of positive reactions that weren't just that it was inspirational, like anything possibly beyond just that it, like the way that you described inspirational? Like, did you get a sense that people were getting more out of it than just that it was that? From anyone?
Yeah, I think that there's been a lot of positive feedback. I'm trying to think of specifically what people.
Well, David Roche, do you know him? Can you tell do you remember what he said?
Let me try and think. Yeah, David is an artist that I just met recently that I performed with up in Calgary. Did I tell you about him? He's so amazing. He's so great. He's a humorist, like a monologuist, and he has a disfigured face. And so he was really blown away by the piece, and he said that it was very sensual. He said that that he really liked the parts where like I was touching myself or like this. Trying to think of what else he said.
I think that, I can't remember exactly what he said, but what I got from him was that he really felt that she expressed herself. and that she was very comfortable doing it. And he really appreciated that.
Yeah, I asked because I think that it's successful in the sense that it gets beyond just the sense, just the general sense that you're talking about of inspiration. I think you do that. I think I've seen I think I've seen some things that don't, but you do. So, it's good that you're getting certain other kinds of feedback besides that.
Oh, yeah.
Because it definitely goes beyond that one point. It does something else.
I just want to say, Lisa, what was inspirational to me was firstly the uniqueness of the movement. And I'm glad you talked about the distinction between the two of you. But more importantly, as an actor, your facility for connecting with the movement and the physicality and the emotion. You were so connected to everything you were doing, particularly in the last piece. I can't believe that you haven't had formal dance training or actor training, so that was inspiring to me.
I had Latsky training. Thanks.
Very connected.
And hopefully it will, so that it's not just inspirational, that the deeper she goes into each section, the more nuanced it will be, so that all these facets of Lisa will come out more. I mean, I think there's room for that within what we've made, right? I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. One thing that David Roche was talking about was, he was saying, can't you feel the connection with the audience when you come out and perform? Can you feel when they're with you or when they're not really with it and stuff? And I can't. I don't really, maybe I haven't performed enough. I don't really get that yet. I think that more experienced performers really, what he does is really he has this monologue that involves the whole audience. But
what you're doing, which is what I do, there's a huge fourth wall.
Right.
So you may not, I can feel if an audience is restless, you can feel that too.
I can feel
You can feel that.
restless, yeah.
You can feel that, but it's a different, it's not what David does. That is a distinction in terms of the performance quality. You're they're voyeurs, right? We're not trying to engage you, other than you're coming into our world. Did you feel that?
What do you
It's
guys think about that? If you feel a connection to the performance, or if you're into it, do you feel like there's a personal connection? In this performance, and also those of you who are performers, what is your relationship to the audience?
You got a nice connection at the end. You're able to stare at that.
Right. Oh, that one part. Yeah. Yep.
Sometimes I feel the silence is so powerful. As a performer also, there's nothing going on in a room that you could actually feel the silence. When you were crawling on the floor and there was no music, I thought everybody was right with you there, and there was a connection somehow. So sometimes it's the opposite way. It's not you're getting something off us, we're getting something off you.
Right.
And you just stop us in our tracks, which is what it's all about. And you did that.
My experience, regardless of the fourth wall or not, if the performer is connected to what they're doing, they speak right through it, the thickest fourth wall. And if you're connected with what you're doing, you have to trust that the audience is immediately connected with you. If you're disconnected or disjointed from what you're doing and are indifferent to what you're doing, whether you're acting, singing, or dancing, then why should I care? And there's this disassociation. But that's why I said I can't believe that you haven't had formal acting training, because you were so connected, particularly in the last piece, the last few pieces.
And I think that's because we work from an internal place. And that's what, I think David, he's just a different form of performing.
Right.
And this kind of performing, there's a lot of dancers who are much more externally focused than I am. But in your piece and my piece, it's a... sweet. Thank you so much. Thank you to the tank for having us. Thank you so much.
I just have a couple of closing statements. First, I'd like to thank you guys so much for coming out. I really, really appreciate it. This the dance division is the tank's newest curated genre, and this year has actually been really, really amazing. Last weekend we had our first all dance weekend here at the tank, and this show actually rounds off our fall season. So I thought this would be an amazing way to end, and it really was. Anytime that the artist takes time to sit and talk to the people that come to see them, it's always, you'd be surprised at how many don't. So when someone does, it's really, really amazing. So I just like to thank you guys for doing that. I really appreciate that. And thank you guys for coming out. And if you could just thank the lighting designer, Melanie, up there. All right, and just if anyone was late and forgot to stop by the box office, please just make sure that you do on your way out. That's my last thing. So thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Tiffany.
Oh, it's my pleasure.